Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It's Thursday, January 15th. Derek Van Riper, Eno Saris, Trevor May here with you on this episode. We got one big signing. Ranger Suárez heads to Boston. A couple of big trades. Both Ryan Weathers and Nolan Arenado on the move. Get some mailbag questions and some changes to the ballpark in KC. We'll dig into that in just a couple of minutes. Trevor, how's it going for you today?
It's going great. Good to be back. I'm excited to finally talk with some other people about baseball. I'm doing a lot talking about myself, so it's good to be back. How you guys doing?
It's good. This is the killing season for us, and with all the position previews we've been doing, we've had this is like where we get the most of the research for our fantasy season done just by preparing for these episodes. So it's nice to take a little break and get into the news and get into kind of the other side of baseball for a second.
Yeah, catching up on a few things that have happened the last couple of days. For those who are new to the show, position previews will resume on Friday. We'll do at least 3 of those every week through the first week of February. That's when pitcher week falls. But we'll keep up on things happening around the league on the other days. So if you go a couple of days without hearing some analysis on a big move that happens, that's the reason why. It's just part of the schedule this time of year. But we got shows, full episodes, 5 days a week now until the end of the World Series. So we are in it for the long haul. Let's go to the news. Let's start with Ranger Suárez. 5 years, $130 million from the Red Sox. A quick pivot from the previous, attempts to reunite with Alex Bregman. I think Ranger's interesting because he's just not like most pitchers that get paid like this. It's not premium velocity. It is a deep arsenal. It is good command. I'm fascinated to see how it ages, but I do love the short-term fit right off the top, because now it's Crochet, it's Suárez, it's Sonny Gray as your first 3, and plenty of quality depth options behind that. Maybe there's a trade in the works, but I just want to know, as you look at Suárez and think about what players typically bring to the table for $130 million over 5 years, how surprised are you that the Red Sox were the team that actually made this deal?
It's a little bit weird because they are adding to a strength rather than adding to their weakness. Right now, they actually have a bottom 10 lineup by projected wins above replacement. So they take something that is a strength for them. The starting rotation is the best in baseball right now, according to Fangraphs. So what you do is you replace Connolly early with a guy who's actually, his pitch mixes and his movements actually look almost exactly the same. I mean, Connolly early doesn't get the ground balls. It's a little bit slightly higher arm angle, but it's very similar. And you're taking a guy, I guess what you're doing is you're taking a guy who's established and you're pushing early into a depth role. You do know that your 6th and 7th starters will give you 200, 250 innings on average in a given season. So it's not like early is just going to spend the entire year in the minor leagues. We know that he's going to be up pitching for somebody. You create redundancies, you create depth. It makes a lot of sense from that angle. But on the other side, this has been a team that really cares about stuff, and they go and they get a guy who is top 2 in command over the last 2 years and has this big arsenal. So it is a little bit strange, but I think that it has a little bit of that Cubs aura where we're talking about not wanting, they trade away Devers. They don't want the 10-year, $300 million deals. They'd rather have some $150 million short-term deals that are 5-year deals. It still sounds like a lot of money, but it's not the kind of money that, if you're 2 years, 3 years into it and the player is not what you expected him to be, you only have 2 years left, so you don't get stuck with 5 years of somebody. That can be really debilitating. So they were in on Bregman till the very end. Supposedly they made an offer that was, $5-10 million short. It was a similar deal, a 5-year deal. So I guess they reallocated some of that money, and they're going to maybe the other shoe that people are thinking about. This is a Chanchkul here. That's a shoe. The other shoe that they're thinking about here might be, is there going to be a trade from that pitching depth to get a hitter?
Right, and Connolly early, Peyton Tolley, Brian Bayo are the names you see bandied about mostly in reports of players teams are really interested in. Right, controllable guys that have really high ceilings. It certainly makes a lot of sense, and it might be a way for them to boost the lineup that you mentioned. It currently lags behind expectations that we have for a typical Red Sox lineup. But Trevor, do you buy into this Red Sox staff as it's currently constructed as maybe the best in baseball? I think by WAR projections, they have now surged ahead of the Dodgers to take that top spot.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely in the conversation. I think it comes down to maybe they're not the most. There's a difference between having the best, I think, potential starting staff and the most dominant, and I wouldn't give them that label. But and I would say the potential for really guys taking over a game still would be advantage Dodgers. But in terms of depth and quality and like maybe even ability to predict their output, like they got some guys that they can really count on, almost health permitting, guaranteeing what those years are going to, the minimum of what they're going to get out of them, and having three guys you can feel real comfortable about that is a huge value. But like Ranger threw really, really well and has for 4 straight years. He's been I think ground ball. I think heavy ground ball guys are something the Red Sox are always interested in having, just because that part can get interesting at times, especially playing against certain teams. And keeping the ball on the ground is something that is really valuable, and he's one of the best to do that. And then Sonny Gray had a sneaky, really good year last year, and he's had several very, very good years in the last few years. And so to think that he won't or he'll regress in any meaningful way either is I think a little bit of a stretch too. So I think that consistency in their starting pitching hurt them last year. And now they've at least addressed the consistency side of it. But in terms of like, if I want 3 guys in a playoff series to go head to head where anyone could take over the game, I'll say there are probably a couple other teams ahead of them in that way. But they're definitely top 5 overall for sure.
Yeah, maybe a team that falls from the top spot in projected WAR to like a 5th if you're projecting playoff rotations based on that sort of impact. And I think there's a little bit of an added weight on Crochet being healthy in October for them to maintain that, because he's the guy that strikes the most fear into you by a healthy margin, even though Ranger Suárez has had a ton of success in October. And, you have a guy in Sonny Gray that I think is absolutely good enough to be a playoff starter. I'm maybe the outlier. I look at this team and think they don't necessarily have to make a trade. They can leave it alone because Sonny Gray is in the last year of a deal. Guys are going to get hurt. You're going to want depth. You're going to want quality. You could just sit back and let it ride with what you have and maybe address any deficiencies that are clear in that lineup once you get closer to the trade deadline, because they're relying on a lot of young position players that could take pretty significant steps forward. And when you go position by position, they're basically 2 wins above replacement across the board, with DH being the one spot where they're not. That's a really well-balanced lineup, right? So I don't know. Am I wrong for thinking Craig Breslow and company can be mostly done with the impact moves at this point in the winter?
It's possible. I mean, Romy Gonzalez is a guy that maybe deserves a full-time shot. I mean, he was 23% better than league average last year. Yes, he's 28, so he's not as young. You can't really project growth. But what if he was just, 5 to 10% better than league average in full playing time? He was limited mostly to right on left situations. As a right-hander, he was kind of a platoon guy, but he was so good, like a 12.5% barrel rate, hit the ball really hard, 57% hard hit rate, 23%, 24% strikeout rate. So maybe you give that guy a shot. I do look at this depth chart and say, you know what? Marcelo Mayer, Nick Sogard, Romy Gonzalez, that's your second and third base situation. It just screams to me that you could put a veteran in there and still need to rely on Marcelo Mayer, Nick Sogard, and Romy Gonzalez over the course of the season. So I just think that they would be safer if they added a second or third baseman on top of this.
Yeah, one more question about Ranger before we move on. It's a deep pitch mix with multiple fastballs and the great command that we've talked about. It should age pretty well, but can he afford to lose any more velocity than we've seen? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. The stuff held up with the velo dip on the sinker last year. It just feels like he's nearing a shelf where if he were to lose another tick and a half, that might not be the case anymore.
Yeah. So I didn't do a wide-ranging study that looked at, other sinker ballers and other players with his stature and how they've done. But I did want to look at him. And there's some interesting thing, because last year we saw he started the season with 91 mile an hour velocity. And at one point he was 89-ish. And yet, if you graph his monthly velocity against his monthly sinker stuff and his monthly overall stuff plus, you can see that his sinker stuff plus and his overall stuff plus were resilient to his velocity drop. Another way of saying that is he pitched last year at 89 at times and he was still okay. He was still pretty good. So like, it's possible that a guy with 5 pitches and 3 fastballs that keeps the ball on the ground, who has shown command in the last couple of years, that a guy like this has just a super high floor and he can maybe pitch at 89. Now, do you hope that he comes in at 91 next year, 92 next year? Yes. Do you hope does the Red Sox hope he doesn't stay at 89 the whole time? Yes. But they also have a toggle, which is, if you look at the sinker stuff plus there, the worst month that it was, June, that's also the month that he threw the sinker the most. And I would just expect, knowing the Boston Red Sox, that he won't ever throw the sinker again 35% of the time. And so that is actually a feature in the model, like how often you throw it when it comes to your fastballs. So I expect him to dial down the fastballs in general, and basically have maybe sort of a 20% sinker, 10% four seam, 10% cutter, something like that, where he's just not really giving you fastballs. He's not really giving you anything to hit. He's dancing around the zone. Everything's low. Everything's on the ground. And that's just such a different look from his other guys that I would never predict that a free agent pitcher would be great through the 5 years, a starting pitcher. It's just, there's injury, there's aging, but I would expect him to be a starting pitcher through this deal. I don't think he's going to end up being a swingman. I think that even at 90 miles an hour, they're just going to be like, why would we put him in the rotation in the bullpen? He'll be 91 in the bullpen. He has 5 pitches. This is what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to get, would he be their 5th starting pitcher at some point in this, their 4-5 guy? Yes, I do think that'll happen by the end of this deal.
Do you agree with that take, Trevor? Do you think the secondaries are good enough to keep Suárez afloat for most of the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, we're not depending. He's not a guy who is depending on stuff as it is. So those guys tend to age a little bit better unless there's injuries that start to hurt the command. Like if the thing is, it's just the margin of error, right? Like if he struggles to throw the ball on the edges, it's going to be bad and bad quickly. But like it's been that way for a long time. And just watching him pitch, it doesn't seem like he's like worried about throwing hard. It doesn't, like, even his mechanics. You can tell when a guy's trying to really zip things in, and I don't want to say aiming's not the right word, but like he's definitely more worried about where the ball is going as opposed to really getting something behind it. I think there is a little bit more in there. He just is like, I think he's seeing the same thing. He's like, it's not meaningfully changing anything, and I could throw more pitches this way, and I feel better start, and I stay healthier, so might as well. And I know when he came up, he was 93 to 94, touching 5s. Like he was a big prospect, really excited. It's in there, but like it's just not. The average is 93 too. He averaged 90.1. Like to a hitter, like, but well below average is well below average. But at some point, you stop noticing the difference between 1 mile an hour between 89 and 90. It's the same for them. It's definitely different when you get in the higher velocities. Those differences are big changes. But
sitting 98 versus 97 or whatever.
Yeah. Like those are the mindset's different as a hitter for those two things. For him, it's going to be stay back and try to get under the ball and try to square it up and like this. So if that's what you're working with and that's what makes you successful, I have no doubt in my mind that he can just keep using all of his pitches, using both sides of the plate, and it's about making 32 starts in a year. And if he's able to do that, he's going to be as valuable as he's being paid.
Yeah, if you can find a way even to stabilize the 150 inning seasons that he's had, 3 of the last 5, that's the level he's reached. If he can do that 4 out of 5 times during the life of this deal, it'll probably work out okay for the Red Sox. And maybe we'll finally get some movement on the Framber Valdez market now that Ranger has a new home here in January.
You'd have to expect that Framber gets a little bit more, right? I mean,
yeah.
Framber has a better strikeout rate, better stuff, maybe not as good command, but, more of a health record, so I don't know if he gets more years, but I would expect, maybe 6, maybe 190, something like. a little bit more than on both the AV and the years, but I'm you're not giving Fromber 7. I think the long-term deals, even 6 might be, those are for like the no doubters. I mean, you give Garrett Cole 6 years because that's what it takes to get him, but I'm, with Fromber and some of the things that happened this year on the field, I feel like maybe it's 5 and 180 or something.
Yeah, I just expect it to be more than Suarez. Maybe that gap will be smaller than we expected because of what you're referring to from 2025. Let's get to a couple trades, though. Ryan Weathers on the move. He goes to the Yankees. He pushed his velo to a career best 96.8 miles per hour in 2025. Injuries were a problem again. Strained forearm and strained lat this year, limited to just 8 starts. But we're seeing changes compared to when Ryan Weathers first broke into the league. The biggest question I have is how well he can deal with Yankee Stadium, given the home run issues he's had working with San Diego and Miami as his home park. Like, that's going to be kind of one broader skills question. Can he avoid the damage of the long ball having to deal with Yankee Stadium half the time? Obviously, the health question is there too, but when you look at the uptick in velocity, you look at his arsenal and where it is right now, Trevor, do you see anything else that you think the Yankees might be able to unlock for Ryan Weathers?
This was a little bit interesting. I think that Weathers is, when he does pitch, I see what people see, and I'm like, he's funky. He's potentially just absolutely dominant. He strike guys out, but he's just not on the field enough. So, I'm thinking, one, maybe the opportunity presented itself because, frankly, every single offseason, all 29 teams check in with the Marlins because they're just willing to run a new team out every year, right? So, and maybe we talked a lot going to last spring training or last season about how strong the top 4 or top 5 for the Yankees was, and then it just fell off a cliff. And then what'd that do? That hurt them immediately. Like, they lost 2 of the guys. So, the Stroman had to be the 4 just immediately day one, and they got bit by that lack of a depth. And I think that's a big part of why. And the ceiling's very high. And I think they're very confident in their ability to develop pitchers and use the funky things about them. We know how their bullpen's put together and how they like to operate that. So, like, that might translate to a guy who has some really high level things when he's playing. And it's just about keeping healthy. Now, do the Yankees have a great track record of keeping starting pitchers healthy? Not lately. So I don't know if that's going to make a big difference, but I think it's just a high ceiling situation and a depth piece minimum. And that's great. And then there's an element of, like, if you want a guy to intuit how to learn to pitch as a lefty and start to build some ground. I mean, there's worse guys to sit and watch than Max Fried, right? And that's kind of a little bit of a reputation that Max has, is that he's very involved in, like, anyone who he thinks he can help. He loves to start pitching, and maybe getting him connected. Those 2 guys connected could unlock something in Weathers as well. That is something that plays in. I know it's not like part of the official plan on paper, but, like, it's always a nice cherry on top of the sundae when you can say you have an elite guy who is funky himself, who throws all of the pitches. Then maybe you can help out a younger guy. And Ryan Weathers being 26 still just blows my mind. I'm like, he's been around, but he came up at 20, so he's been up for a while. I think they're gonna identify the thing that he does, the pitches that they feel like are the best health permitting, and really just lean in on making sure that we're using those as effectively as possible. That's something they've done really well in the last few years, and getting the most out of the pitchers. And worst case scenario, throw that guy in the pen, because he might throw 100 and he might stay healthier, and we might have the next, like, 8-9 guy just come out of the woodwork. He's a prime candidate for that. To do the Weaver thing, in my opinion, because sometimes injuries just force you out there. So hopefully this back and forth thing, or this try to get him started, gets hurt, isn't what happens with the Yankees. But if it is, that's probably plan B, which isn't the worst plan in the world.
I think a lot of the work is done when it comes to Weathers, just because you look how different he is. I mean, when he came in the league, Trevor's talking about this, like, he came up at 20. You got his movements here on the left. He came in with a 93 stuff plus. He came in basically with a fastball that had no differentiation between the four seam and the sinker. It was exactly what you'd expect given his arm slot, and then a gyro slider and nothing else really. The changeup was basically a slower sinker. You can see that all on the left. And then through the power of pitch design, he raised his arm angle 9 degrees. He found a changeup that really drops and separates itself from the fastballs. He added a sweeper. He still throws the gyro some, but between the sweeper and the changeup and the 2 fastballs, he now has a more complete mix, and it all works. I mean, the one thing that does bother me a little bit is this a guy who's put on 3 ticks and 9 degrees of arm angle. And, Trevor was talking about how the lower, there's some research now that the lower arm angles are a little bit safer. We're seeing all these injuries. But I think there's a little bit of the Dodgers model just going on here with New York, where they're saying, well, Rodon's not healthy to start the season. He's going to miss some time. And Clark Schmidt is not ready to start the season. We think Cole will be ready to start the season, but what if there's a little bit of slow walking him? Let's just get a guy that we hope will be ready to start the season. And if he doesn't finish the season, by that time we'll have, other guys coming online. I think this is more like, hey, yeah, what Trevor referenced, they were good for like 1 through 3 last year, 4, and then it got a little bit testy in the back once there were additional injuries. So I think this is a depth piece that I think he may eventually go to the pen. I mean, to have him as a power lefty, that's for a team like the Marlins, that's a risk that would hurt them a lot, to have a starter like this go to the bullpen. For a team like the Yankees, you're paying him $5 million this season. If he ends up as your power lefty, if he ends up as a playoff player at all, like if he ends up being a factor in the playoffs at all as a 2-inning lefty or your power lefty in the pen or whatever, then you made the right deal, because they're usually about how are we going to win the World Series this year? And Weathers can help them do that much more than, as the return was pretty decent, I thought, for Weathers. It's not players that are in top 100 lists, but they are players that have played really well recently, and they're all hitters. So they got 3 hitters for one pitcher, and I get why the Marlins did this, and I think the Yankees did this in a sort of a Dodgers-esque move. Just add to your depth, add to your guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the profiles are interesting. It's taking a few different shots and hoping you can turn the 4 players you got back into at least 2 guys that make some kind of big league impact. Dylan Lewis is kind of interesting as a sleeper. Brendan Jones is inside the top 250 on our friend James Anderson's fantasy-centric prospect list over at RotoWire. Highly recommend James and a RotoWire subscription if you're looking to get that kind of info. And then Dylan Jasso Lamathias also part of that deal as well. I mean, it's trying to rebuild the organization the way you want it. That's what the Marlins are doing with a trade like this. And 4 bites at the apple, you're probably going to be right on at least one of those guys, if not more than one. We talked about the impact the Edward Cabrera trade would have by likely opening up a spot for Robbie Snelling, or at least making it easier for him to have a large volume of innings in the big leagues, take another starter out of the equation, because Weathers is a guy that, when healthy, you would have penciled into the Marlins rotation. Now you look and say, hey, maybe Thomas White's going to get a significant number of innings for the Marlins this year. He's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. He'll be managed carefully. Last 2 seasons, he's thrown 96 innings and 89 2/3 in the minors, so 125, 130, something in that range is probably what we're going to get. And they may manage him by returning into AAA, where he made a couple starts last year. But I like Thomas White's chances of at least having some kind of role, even if it's only for 2 or 3 months with the Marlins in 2026.
Something that they could do is revive the gyro by the model. And with the Yankees with Weathers, one thing they could do is maybe revive the gyro, because the Stuff Plus model says that's a positive pitch that he didn't throw last year, and it is platoon neutral. So whereas you wouldn't really necessarily want to up sweepers from lefties or righties, he could maybe throw more gyros and play that off of the changeup. That's something you could get from watching Max Fried. He's a guy who uses all his pitches, plays them off, secondaries off each other.
And he also has just even looking, I know it was only 30-something innings last year, but this is pretty standard par for the course. His slider, sweeper, and changeup all had 30+% whiff rates with the changeup over 40. Like when you have the ability to get swings and misses on 3 off-speed pitches at a 30% plus clip, that's usually a really good sign that you can go and in short stints be truly like dominant, especially with this increased velocity. So it would be nice if you're making this trade just to know that like that is, that could solve every issue that might come up with this guy could be solved with a move like that. And if that's the worst case scenario, then we'll live with it because we need those guys too.
We're going
to the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're going to the playoffs. We need a guy like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when the 4 guys you traded away, none of those guys were going to offer anything for 2026 in the Yankees organization. It just wasn't going to happen there. So nice to have that floor of a high leverage reliever with Ryan Weathers if that's what they're able to do with depth, eventually getting back from all the different injuries they're dealing with in New York. Let's get to the other trade that went down this week. Nolan Arenado traded to Arizona. Diamondbacks only picking up $11 million of the salary remaining on the 2 years left of his deal. So very inexpensive addition, solves their third base problem, at least defensively. Injuries have been more of a problem for Arenado each of these last couple seasons. It kind of started with the back issues in late 2023. It was a right shoulder strain that cost him time in 2025. And that apparently came from an adjustment he made due to a finger injury. So one injury kind of morphed into another. I think that was from Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. But can we buy a reasonable health rebound for Nolan Arenado making the move to Arizona? It's not going to be bounce back to 30 homer guy, but he doesn't have to be that. If he's a good defender and 5% better than league average with the bat, that ends up being a pretty nice move for Arizona, who gave up their 8th round pick from last summer, Jack Martinez. Shout out to the Cespedes Barbecue guys for that pronunciation. I would have said Martinez for sure. It's Martinez. A guy they're not going to miss in Arizona, right? For a starting third baseman ends up being a pretty nice deal if Nolan Arenado's healthy. Where do you think we're at production-wise for Arenado? Where should we set the bar, Trevor?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think the worst case scenario, and this is great for the Diamondbacks, they are paying him more than this person would pay, but like if we have a second coming of 2023 Longoria, let's go. Because they're a young team. Their best players are young, with the exception of, not that Ketel Marte is old, but like he has been around long enough now but the Corbin Carrolls, Geraldo Perdomo, the young outfielders, they're a young team. They have more experience now, but like it's always good to have a guy who's been around and who's a gamer like him. I saw some video of his swing recently, and he seems to have eliminated a lot of his little happy feet stuff. I don't know if we've covered this, but if anyone's wondering, he does this weird step turn thing that over time he's and this is anecdotal from people who know him, but would say like sometimes that kind of gets away from it. Like it's just so normal that it gets crazy, and he's like, oh wow, I'm turning my body weird. So he looked much cleaner, looked much more comfortable. But again, sometimes it's just little nagging stuff. Your hand hurts all the time. You're just not going to hit the ball as hard as you used to. And then I'll also say there's a little bit of thing to remember. I mean, when he was prime and he was doing his things, it was in Colorado. I mean, the second best place to go hit is probably Chase Field. So that's an upgrade, and he's used to hitting there. So there might be a little bit of a boost there where he can find a little bit more of a hitter friendly park to hit in more often, be inside, not to deal with the heat as much. Like there's a lot to go with that, but I think that we can expect. What he hit 12 homers, 52 RBIs last year. He plays the whole season. To think that he couldn't get up high to 20, low 20s, and in the mid 70s or 80s RBIs, they would be ecstatic to get that. Like a 20 home run, 80 RBI a year and healthy the whole year. Because he's going to play adequate third. I know he slowed down a lot, but like he takes fielding very seriously. Not something he'll ever let slide to a point where like he can't do it anymore. So I think it's a great pickup for him. I think it makes a lot of sense for their clubhouse. I think it's something they need. And we're now at the tail end of this contract, so it's not anything egregious. $42 million overall, and they're getting 31 of it paid. So it's just kind of a no-brainer, even if the worst they get is Evan Longoria's production at the plate, which I don't even really remember what it was, but they all loved having him be there, and he was a big part of them making that run. So that's the player side of me saying, without nuts and bolts, I think that they should be excited for those reasons. And again, it's like the Yankees with weather. It's like plan B, not so bad.
Yeah, I think you're right about Longoria. I think Longoria in Arizona he was 37. So that was the real end of his career. I mean, literally was. But Longoria is actually a pretty good comp for him when he went to San Francisco. So, at the end of his Tampa Bay career, he was 31. He's coming off his worst season with the bat. He was obviously aging, and the Giants, the next 2 years, he gave them 2.5 wins, 36 homers over 2 years, like a 250 average. 1 year was better than the other. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually the outcome for Arenado there, where it's like one of these years is healthier and better than the other. You don't know which it's going to be. And both years he'll be decent. He'll be a veteran that helps you shore it up. The glove, what we learned from Jordan Rosenblum is that these like third base glove defense doesn't decline as fast as other places. So he's still projected to be a positive with the glove. This sort of Longoria-esque, right? Longoria in San Francisco was still a good defender. And so I like all of you saying about that. And then like the $11 million, like, listen, if you get 2.5 wins like they got out of Longoria for $11 million, I think even with the price of the reliever you traded away baked in, I think it becomes a good deal. That's why they did it. In terms of what it means for this team, it is interesting to look at the different projection systems, because for Nolan Arenado, he's either going to be 16% worse than league average with the bat, according to Oopsie, which uses bat speed and aggressively ages guys based on bat speed aging, or Steamer, who says he's going to be a league average guy with the bat and in general. And it actually means a lot. It says something about this team that if you look at projections, the projections systems, they must use something more like Steamer in Arizona than they do other ones, because the projection systems, if you use Oopsie, say that they have that Arizona has like 4 league average hitters. And if you go over to the Bat X, they're like 5 league average hitters. If you go over to Steamer, they have 7. And I just found that interesting. It means that there's something about what they value. They value, on the hitting side, they value hitterish guys. They value guys who put stuff up on the field, rather than necessarily like deeply valuing bat speed. Deeply valuing the StatCast stats. And that has been a team that has overperformed what people consider their offense to be, the quality of their offense to be. I mean, like, when they went to the World Series, I don't think anybody said going into the season, Arizona's going to have a top 3 offense in this league.
Oh, they've been exceeding expectations relative to projections on that front, I think, now for a few seasons. And I mean, they have quality at key spots. Like Gabriel Moreno behind the plate, really good. Ketel Marte at second base, projects really well. Geraldo Perdomo had a huge breakout. A lot of it looks real, projects really well. Corbin Carroll still projects as a star. So then you look at the secondary guys, you add a guy like Arenado to help stabilize the lineup a little bit. If you have some deficiencies at first base and DH, those are pretty much the easiest positions to cover with a midseason trade, right? You can find
and there's also
a veteran to cover those spots.
There's a rumor that Paul Goldschmidt will come back. I mean, yeah, we'll give him a 1-year deal. He platoons with Pavin Smith at first base. That's something that could make sense. It's easiest to fill, like you're saying. It's easiest to fill. If your biggest holes are DH and first base, then those are the easiest to fill.
Yeah, and as they kind of round out the lineup, the concerns I had about the depth go away, and they return to the quality of the pitching staff. That's where I think we're going to have some major issues with Arizona. And we've talked about Ryan Waldschmidt maybe getting a look for the opening day roster. He's going to be up and making an impact at some point within the next season and a half, but maybe by opening day of this year. Maybe Jordan Lawler finds a spot in center field. There's a couple different ways they could end up boosting those projections with some internal promotions as well. So curious to see where it goes. Cardinals teardown continues. I think Nolan Gorman's going to play a ton. Maybe we'll see him play at some third base. It'd be nice to just see what happens with 500 plus plate appearances for him as they go through this adjustment year in 2026. Let's get to one of the big stories. Eno wrote about this on The Athletic this week. The Royals are adjusting their outfield wall distance and heights in 2026, moving the walls in about 10 feet left and right field, and lowering the walls a little bit as well. So naturally, home runs are probably going to go up. Could see Trevor. The nervousness is like, oh man, I don't like the sound of this. There's an impact on pitching for sure. Like the first place our minds all go is, well, there's gonna be more homers. You wrote about this, and what did you find digging into some of the projections? I know Derek Carty did some modeling for this, and kind of put some numbers to just how much of an increase this is going to have on power.
Yeah. So, a projection system is going to say how much like fewer square footage is that outfield going to have? Like how much, how many more balls will leave, and, what kind of an impact will this have on slugging? And it's about 5 points of extra slugging is the median addition. That seems like not that much. It wants to give about a homer to every guy. Most guys get a homer, an extra homer out of this. Why is not more? Well, one of the reasons is you play half your games on the road. So now we're talking about half those games. Now it's, if you look at the image of what the actual changes are to this wall, it's not a uniform change. It's not going to happen in the middle third. So now you're taking a half of the thing, and of the half, you're taking 2/3 of potentially affected balls, not a full third. So now you're at 2/3 of a half. And then it has to be only balls that are hit hard enough to make a difference out there. So that's why it only ends up being in projections a homer or so. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more than that. If Vinny Pasquantino set a career high in homers, and if Maikel Garcia hit 17 or 18 homers next year, it wouldn't surprise me. But part of that is also mindset changes. I mean, the biggest part of my story was that there's something that there's vibes around a park, because the weirdest thing is that for people that play there, I think, I talked to Alex Gordon about this. I came up to the big leagues and every fly ball I hit died and I couldn't hit any homers. So I had to change the way I hit, right? You see Eric Hosmer out there on social media, belittling people that say that, this is a hitter's park, but the park factors say it's a slightly above average hitter's park. I think that the vibes really, that the homer is the biggest deal. The home run park factor is what people are most attuned to. They don't see the extra. It's hard to see the extras, doubles and triples, or the extra, how Kauffman suppresses strikeouts. Is that something you can see, like as a fan or as a hitter? Is that easy to see? So I think the home run park factor is the easiest. Oh, I know which parks the home runs go out of, and those are the hitters' parks, and that's how people think. So I wonder how much of this could be a vibes change. I mean, before you knew about park factors on Savant, and before you were like looking through these numbers, because I'm sure there was a before time for you, Trevor. You didn't just look at Savant your first day in the minor leagues, but that was a pitcher's park for you, right? Or did it remain a pitcher's park to you, even though you knew about these other parks?
It remained a pitcher's park, and I didn't check Savant when I first get in the minors because it didn't exist. So
You're right.
That's the major reason. I would have probably, but it didn't exist. It's always felt like a pitcher's park for a few reasons. Not just even the park. The park feels big. The backdrop is kind of like just empty. Its location, the sky's big. It's kind of like what Coliseum feels like. Everything feels just farther away. The way that the stands are, they're like gently sloped, as opposed to like in Minnesota, you feel like you're in a hole, and they feel they're on top of you. Like that, there is a vibe there. And then confidence. You get confidence that you can give up some squared balls, and they might not go out still. It's also just like the center of the field, which they are keeping out there. Those big alleys are a little bit still there, which is people tend to hit the ball I feel like there's not a lot of just full yank because there's no like Green Monster, or there's no short porch to go for. So
there's no quirk. There's nothing to aim for.
There's no quirk. There's nothing to aim for. It's literally one of the most if not the most uniform fields in Major League, which you can feel like it's generic, but it just has there's no scouting the thing, but okay, if I can juice one away or whatever here, or the wind blows out one. None of that stuff exists. There's nothing that people are going off of. So when you feel just kind of neutral about it, there's nothing to go on. It feels like maybe the pitchers have an advantage if you're a hitter. And then there's the heat.
Plus, if you don't give up home runs, the home runs is the biggest thing, the worst thing you could do. So if you're not going to do the worst thing, if it's going to suppress the worst thing that could happen, then everything else feels like, okay, so maybe I give up a triple or something.
If you feel like the worst case scenario is less likely, you're more confident. It's just, and that generally kind of plays out. So, but then there's the heat and the humidity. So like in the middle, it just only gets hotter and it only gets more humid there in the middle of kind of the Missouri jungle a little bit. And so it's so hot sometimes that like the ball literally, some parks go through these phases through the season where the ball flies for a while and then it gets suppressed again. Minnesota flies a little bit more in the middle of summer when it's nice and warm. Super humid days, it won't. But then in the beginning of the year, it's cold as heck. Now the ball's not going anywhere. No one's hitting anything hard. Pitchers have a huge advantage. That's not the same in Missouri, but it gets hot really early. It stays hot for a really long time, and it's very humid. So the ball also, like just humidity, the ball doesn't fly as far in humidity as it does dry heat. That's just the way physics work. So like that also is part of it. You feel all these things as a hitter, you feel all these things as a pitcher, you feel suppressed. Right. And so it feels like the game gets shrunk a little bit. And with a big field, you put yourself in that situation. That's where that mindset comes from. So like now I'm fascinated. Now I want to ask, and I haven't had the chance to, he hasn't texted me back, but I want to ask Seth Lugo, like, how are you feeling about the field shrinking? Because he's definitely like, here it is. And like pitching in a big park, it like really allows him to unlock and do that. And having to get like cute about certain things are not the best thing for him. So it'd be interesting to see how he feels about it. I bet you now at this point he's just like 36, man. Like I'm just gonna keep doing the thing. What can I do about it? 10 feet. It's still gonna look very similar. It's gonna be hard to tell as a pitcher. So maybe that mindset will still be there. I don't know, but there is gonna be more things that they're gonna be like, that didn't go out last year. Yeah, that's gonna happen more often than it did. You're gonna see things going into bullpens that were off the wall before. So
I feel like they're going to notice that more, as you said, when the weather starts to warm up. Like at the beginning of the year, it might feel the same because it's so cold, but then you hit like late May when it starts to get into those warmer days. That's when I think you're going to see the switch kind of flip in that ballpark.
The monthly park factors. There's a piece called the Park Factors Are in the Pudding over at Fangraphs that looks at how parks deviate from their overall park factor by month. And it's by Kirioler, and August is the month in which Kauffman plays completely differently. It's up 6 points of park factor, so it becomes a real hitter's park. Yeah, and I think but this mindset is the most interesting thing to me because when I looked at, yes, their ERA is projected to go up 5 points, basically, but projections never really liked the Royals staff. Waka's predicted for a 4.5 ERA. Lugo's projected for a 4.8 ERA in the bat. So he goes up to 4.86. I don't know. I don't really buy those projections. I think, the pitching staff is better than that. But there is a mindset that has attracted more pitchers than hitters in free agency to that place. And in Kansas City, in pitch tracking, only 6 teams have thrown more pitches inside the zone. There's something Tommy Pham said to me. He's like, dude, they're not afraid of homers in Kansas City, so they just pitch into the zone. And that's why strikeouts are down. As a park, the strikeouts are down. Now, other people say it's because of the batter's eye. You mentioned that. It looks beautiful out there. It's a really nice neutral backdrop. It could be both things. But there is this mindset that like, oh yeah, I'll take a 1-year deal from Kansas City to pitch. And if you look at their signings, they've signed like 3 times as many pitchers as hitters in the last 4 years. Their number one hitting signing, I think it was Adam Frazier, Hunter Renfroe. They signed Hunter Renfroe to a 2-year deal. Yet you can name all the pitchers. There's Waka, there's Lorenzen, there's Lugo. All these guys are taking those deals. So, I wonder how that'll change in the free agency market. Like, how quickly do people's opinions of parks change? Because they're manipulating not only what's happening on the field, but they're manipulating vibes. Like they want more hitters to sign there. They want to be able to sign like Ryan O'Hearn to that 2-year deal, or they want to. That might be a bad example because they had him before, but they want to sign these guys like Gavin Sheets. If Gavin Sheets had it on the table, Padres and Kansas City, in the year that he signed with the Padres, he would have chosen San Diego, but the park factors would have said maybe that was the wrong decision. But the vibe factor is different. I don't think people think of San Diego as a huge pitcher's park.
It's not as extreme as it used to be because of some of the construction that's happened around the park.
And they also changed their walls some too.
Yeah. There have been changes, like the original Petco versus the current version. You'd see some pretty big changes over time. I think about park factors and applying them, more on an individual sort of level. Like, I'm more worried for Seth Lugo getting punished for being in and around the zone more now than I am for Cole Reagans. Like, there's it's just not, to me, it's just not apples to apples. I think you have to look at how effective stuff actually is in the zone, how good the pitches actually are. I think that's going to matter. I do think the point you made earlier, though, about the outfield area being smaller is really important. So you may gain a couple of homers over the course of a season. You might lose some of those gappers. So maybe your average comes down, but your home run total goes up. There's all sorts of like smaller things that are going to happen depending on mindset, actual abilities to take advantage of the adjustments. On the hitting side, this seems like a really good thing overall for Vinny Pasquantino, right? He does enough things really well as a hitter where I think it still ends up being a net positive, even if we're making a trade of 3 points in batting average or 5 points in batting average for a half dozen homers. It could be a little more extreme for a player like that.
Have you played somewhere, Trevor, where the walls changed recently? I don't know if they changed city, or you must have like come through a spot at least. I mean,
Baltimore,
it's a little different when
they
it's
moved the wall
park.
back.
Yeah,
it didn't really matter for me though.
Well, I just wonder how quickly people change. I know that like, if you ask someone publicly, a hitter, I'm talking about hitters here. If you ask a hitter publicly, do you alter your approach for your home park? They'll say, no, you got to play everywhere. I just want to be a good hitter, blah, blah, blah. I swear to God, if you ask them privately, they say, oh, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't I? I play half of my games in one park, and I play 81 in one park, and I play, tops 15 in another park. Yeah, of course I'm going to do that. So, and I've had private conversations. I hope I'm not outing Jed here, but we talked about it a little bit with him on. But Jed asked me to model the outfield in Oakland and model so he wanted to see where the wind was because he was convinced that there were places he could aim in Oakland and there were places he could hit it. I've had conversations with Yonder Alonso about this in Cleveland. He wanted to know where the wind helped him and where it hurt him so that he could change his way of hitting to fit his home park. So what's the pitching corollary for that? Like, if there was a change, what would you want to know as a pitcher? What could you change about the way you pitch to fit your park?
I think the one thing is there's when it comes down to things that you're okay with the hitter doing, where they hit it is part of that equation. Could be part of that equation, especially if it was egregious, right? But I will say, like, most of the time, just like hitters, like most of the time, you're like, hey, I'm just trying to hit it, or I'm just trying to throw it to a side of the plate that I can do consistently. That comes first. But if you have if you are Ranger Suárez, for example, that could completely change whether or not you're just living down and away, pitch that they cannot pull because you throw a pitch that is very hard to pull already, when you wouldn't take any chances and you're just like staying away from their ability to pull the ball, which might be actually something that happens a little bit more this year. He might use the outside of the plate to righties even more than he already does, even though he already uses that changeup with that sinker. So but he takes shots up and in with the sinker, tries to run it back. He might not do that as much with the wall over there. So that is the type of thing where it's like every individual pitch moment. Every moment where you're about to throw a pitch has a risk and reward balancing. And there are some low-hanging fruit things where you can be like, hey, this is something that is just not worth it anymore because of the park that we're going to be in more often than not. But I will say those things are usually rare, and it's usually just one, maybe two, depending on what you're doing. So that's where a different adjustment would be. But as a reliever, I'd be like, what's the worst possible thing that happen to me? Give up a homer. So is there a way? Is there a lines up with what these guys do well? Do they all pull the ball really well? And that's not good to give them pull the ball. That lines up. I'm going to stick with what I'm going to do, try to not let them pull it anyways, because I was going to do that regardless.
Generally you don't want them to pull the ball. So I get that. Yeah. But how about this? Houston. So you're facing a lefty in Houston. You don't want them to push the ball. Normally you'd want that guy to push the ball, right? Then you'd be okay with Oppo, right? Because it doesn't go as far. It could be a can of corn. would you not pitch a lefty away in Houston because you don't want him to try and poke it into the Crawford boxes?
That is something that is one of those outlier situations where it only happens there. Like that only happens there. So maybe that up and away forcing fastball where they're probably going to be late anyways or later, and a guy who can handle the bat better, the Michael Brantleys of the world. I'm not going to try to go strike out Michael Brantley up and away with a 497-mile fastball, because that is exactly what he'll try to do. Because he knows about it and he can do that. So like maybe it's like, I'm still going to make you pull it, or I'm going to still make you, hit the ball hard up the middle because it's massive there. So like that is definitely though something that easily avoidable. Like that's like I'm an idiot if I give up that home run. I'm an idiot.
Right.
Like that was especially in a big spot. Like why did I even let that be an option? Like make them beat you in a way that they don't beat you very well. They don't hit very well anyways. But that is a prime example. Staying away from Crawford boxes is a great example. Staying away. I mean, I know the Yankees have the right field corner to try to keep like Judge in the middle of the field. I mean, Judge doesn't really matter. That's a bad example. But like, maybe a guy who's a little bit more, doesn't necessarily do that very often. Don't let him just dunk one in there. Like make him do something else. That is something that might change a pitch decision, one or two pitch decisions in that at bat against that guy, so that you don't give up that one worst case scenario.
Yeah, no, but if you extend that out to like, okay, now you're a Houston pitcher and you pitch there all year, so it could affect the way that you pitch. So I think this might affect the way that Royals pitchers pitch, because now pulled things are worse.
Yeah,
because you're pulling it in. So like the righty pulling and a lefty pulling, they get more out of it. So I don't know if you're going to avoid the inside part of the plate to some guys a little bit more. I mean, there's just these interesting secondary effects, like the vibes on the market and how the pitchers are going to adjust that. I don't think will happen right away, but I think there's gonna be a change. Maybe this will now solidify in people's minds. Oh, this is kind of a hitter's park. It's not a pitcher's park, even though it's kind of the park factors have said it's been that way forever.
I think they're aiming more for neutral. I think that's what they're hoping for. I don't think they're trying to make it a top 5 hitters park. I think they're trying to get it near 15, league wide in terms of what it does, which is kind of what
where it
seemingly wants
now. So that's why I think
maybe in home runs specifically.
Yeah,
like they want it to be middle of the road in homers.
Yeah, that's what it seems like they're trying to accomplish here. Really curious to see what those adjustments end up being across the staff, though, in Kansas City. Got a mailbag question here. Talk about pitch run values once in a while. This one came from James. I don't know if there's any relation to Tony, but Trevor Rogers' question. A, his fastball has the highest run value per 100 pitches on Savant. B, stuff plus wise, his fastball is at 89 with a 109 location plus. The question is, using Trevor Rogers as an example, how should you interpret run value versus stuff plus versus location plus? Is pitch run value a predictive stat?
I just analytically, from an analytical standpoint, no. Run value does not have great predictive power. It's not bad for telling a story, retroactive, descriptive power. I mean, if you're trying to tell the story of last year, yes, it is appropriate for you to say that Trevor Rogers had a great fastball last year. But you can see it even in the stuff modeling numbers. He did it with a 109 location plus. So he did it by locating it really well, more than it having intrinsic properties that do stick around. So it's more likely this year that he has an average fastball than he has the best fastball in the big leagues. And so that's why you would focus. Now, location plus is less sticky from year to year than stuff plus. So that's why I would say maybe it'd even be a little bit below average because it's 89 stuff plus. But what we did find was that if you focus mostly on guys that do have good command and have demonstrated it for a while, like Ranger Suárez, that location plus becomes more predictive. Where location plus breaks down the most is in small sample guys that, frankly, aren't healthy year to year. But if you are a guy like Aaron Nola, Ranger Suárez, George Kirby, these guys have put up the same location plus numbers year over year because it's describing their true talent. They have great command. So I don't know where Rogers fits on that with location plus. That's why I would hew closer to stuff plus. That's why my projections have him as sort of a top 50, top 60 pitcher, a guy who's going to probably have an ERA around 4. But I mean, you can obviously disagree with that and have your own opinions on it, but run value itself, and the reason why run value is not predictive is because it has too much stuff in it. It has balls in play in it. So, and it also, it doesn't account for count. So, generally this is among fastballs. So at least it's fastballs that often get used 3-0 or 2-0. And, so that's good that it's, you're just comparing among fastballs, but not everybody uses their fastball in 2-0 counts. So, you could have a pitch like Dylan Cease's fastball rates well by Stuff Plus, but not by run value. The problem is Dylan Cease is mostly a 2-pitch pitcher that doesn't have great command. So if he feels like he's forced into a fastball 2-0, he may not command it well. Boom, there goes the dynamite. But what is run value telling the story right? Or is it better to sort of separate it into the process elements? This is why I sometimes use things like, the slugging percentage on a slider. It's not a great idea though, because it lacks a lot of context in terms of count, when they're using it, why they're using it, what they used it after. There's a lot of stuff that's missing out of run value. Here's my biggest example on run value. R.A. Dickey had, I think, one of these years, he had the best run value on four-seamers in baseball. Do you remember R.A. Dickey's four-seamer? It was like 82 miles an hour. Yeah. It was like his reverse. It was like his reverse slide. It was like his other thing because he threw the knuckleball all the time. Every once in a while, he threw a fastball and be like, "What the hell was that?"
Well, after seeing knuckleballs, an 83 mile an hour fastball probably looks like it's 95, right? Like there's a massive differential there.
So I would stay away from run value. I mean, I think it has value. Like if you're broadcasting a game, you're trying to tell a story about how good his fastball has been that year.
I agree with that. I can give you some context because I actually used to look at run value, but it wouldn't be the decisions. It would just be like, this thing is not doing what I think it can. And is my bias of like, man, is this thing getting crushed or is this thing like really hurting me this year happening? And then you can go look and it's like a verification of that. And then you have to make a decision when you want to stop. When are you throwing this thing? When are you doing it? And then you can change it. So like that's like it's very much a process. That it's for all intents and purposes accounting stat too. I'll give you a prime example because here's me from 2028. This is the difference. This is how this thing can swing for my four-seam fastball. In 2018, it was a 0. 2019, it was a 17, the best four-seam in the league. The next year, -2. 2020. Next year, +7.
How much did it change physical shape those years?
Very little. Very little. The velo actually went up also. So
you probably maybe you changed a little bit how you pitched, like how you used it or when you used it or
Also,
something.
the year before that, I had a curveball. It was a -8. I stopped doing it. I had a 0 slider. But the year my four-seam went to a -2, my slider was a 3. So like another pitch became my better pitch. And I was still having success because I learned how to use the pitch. My usage went way up. The year after the -2 in 2020, 21, 7 + 7. Back to using the fastball a lot. 2022, -5. Back to using the slider and the changeup and the split. And I learned a new changeup. So I like that. I got a +2 on that. The next year, a 1 run value on the four-seam. So every year went negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. It was just me evolving as a pitcher, changing grips, liking a certain pitch that was working for me better, which took away from using the four-seam fastball. It could have been the four-seam fastball was making me make that change or vice versa. But that's why it's kind of volatile and hard to predict and why it's not as valuable as predictive stat because pitchers are probably actively trying to make that pitch be better or getting away from it completely because, it's not because other things are successful enough. You can't just like be like, I'm going to keep throwing this bad pitch and keep being bad in the middle of a major league season. No, you just go to the other pitches and you just stop throwing it. And then that stat stays the same. And then at the end of the year, you're like, oh, it's still a -5, even though it didn't hurt you as much in the last 2 months. You just didn't throw it as much. So that's kind of what's going on there.
And you can make an adjustment, and it could be a lot better the next year just by tweaking it again or changing something else.
And tweaking something that's not intrinsic to the pitch, tweaking how you use it, when you use it, where you place it.
Yeah.
Another one is Brian Woo's sweeper has a negative run value. It has a negative run value, but it had a 203 X slugging. It had a 286 actual slugging on the pitch. It had a 46% whiff rate. So you're like, how did it have a negative run value? Well, it wasn't in the zone enough, and he didn't command it well. But that, and maybe that is going to continue, and maybe that's going to be why the sweeper will never be a huge, great pitch for him, or maybe he'll get better at it every year. The in-zone rate on the sweeper has gone up for Bryan Woo specifically every year. And that is, that could just be, or maybe he wants it to be outside the zone. And even though run value says that's a bad idea and it doesn't like these chase pitches, maybe that works for Bryan Woo because he's like, oh, now I got this guy thinking, oh, I'm going to be way out here. Now it's time for sinker in. Dotting sinker in.
Don't forget too, like he can throw a sweeper and the next year he can just throw a different grip sweeper and then it's labeled exactly the same. And he's throwing a different pitch you didn't know. So we fix that by if you ever see that or wondering, just make sure you just spam tweets at Petriello and he'll definitely get on top of it.
He loves it. Tell him all the time.
He loves talking about labeling pitches.
It's got to be Mike Petriello's favorite thing, actually. Yeah, just pepper him with those messages. He'll love that. But thank you for the question, James. It's a good way to dive into what was going on with a player, right? It's an entry point into something. It's not a complete answer in and of itself when you look at a run value. All right, it's time. It's the first Name That Dude of 2026.
Immediately anxious. He's immediately anxious.
We are so back
already.
We need to get a Whoop or some kind of device on you that just measures how much your heart rate goes up. When
just put it up above his head. Oh, you can do that easy. I know what
I love where this is going. I think we've got a great opportunity.
Face is getting red
here. Yeah, you do look a little rosy over there. So for those who are new to the show, Name That Dude, I provide a series of clues. Eno and Trevor, after each clue, try to identify today's mystery player. Very simple game. There's one winner. There's one loser. The good news for Eno is the scoreboard resets. This is not an all-time scoreboard. It is 0-0. New year,
have like a one
new
win
scoreboard.
All time.
Trevor got the series win both in 2024 and in 2025, but maybe this is the year can hang the Name That Dude banner in the background at season's end. Key to getting there, got to go 1-0, right? You don't have to, but it certainly helps. All right, today's mystery player. I was born on May 2nd, 1991 in La Vega, Dominican Republic. I want someone to get it off that clue so bad sometime. It's going to make me so happy.
Jose Ramirez.
Not Jose Ramirez. You want to take a guess, Trevor?
30 May 91, so 34. Eduardo Escobar.
Nope.
He's Venezuelan.
It's a fun guess. Just take a shot. Even if you just take a random name. Take a shot. All right, next clue. I was signed as an international free agent by the Phillies, but I made my major league debut with the Astros.
Hector Neris.
It's not Hector Neris. Eno?
Nope.
All right. I played parts of 10 different seasons in the big leagues, and my most impressive statistical accomplishment was leading the league in stolen bases in 2016 when I stole 62 bases in 80 attempts.
Jonathan VR.
Oh, that is correct.
I knew it. I'm like, he was traded for Oswalt. Which one was it? Oh,
I was gonna say
no.
Jose
he was
Cruz Jr. Was Jose Cruz Jr.
He was a couple
even
big
close?
trades.
He was in. I played Loe with him, and then with the Mets.
Probably in the org at the same time at the Phillies.
Yeah, he was 19 in Lakewood with me. You said Phillies. I was like, he's 34. He's around my age, dude. He was in the trade with Houston. I don't know why I said Neris. Neris broke with the Phillies.
Yeah, Neris debuted with the Phillies. And went to the Astros way later.
Hey, at least I'm not too far. I mean, Jose Cruz Jr. played some in Houston, and he played the right time frame. So, phew. But he went to Rice. Did not know that.
Well, that was the year he had the butt slide.
Mm-hmm.
When they were like 51 and 111 or whatever, and he just butt slid into the. Who was it?
That was a good one.
Was that the same year that the butt fumble happened too?
I think it was Segura he went into.
I've got enough time. But let me just turn this around on you guys. It's a real simple one. Okay.
Okay.
Ryan O'Hearn. There's been 3 players in the history of baseball that have been a negative by wins above replacement till they were 30, and then put up 5 wins after it. 3 players in the history of baseball. Ryan O'Hearn is one of them. I'm going to give you one because you'll never get it. His name is Bill Robinson, played for the Pirates, was a guy. The other guy you can get.
Is it a recent-ish guy?
It's a recent-ish guy. I'll give you one clue.
I think with pre-clue, I'll take a shot at a pre-clue. Is it Justin Turner?
No, that's a good guess.
Okay.
The first clue, I guess, will be plays the same position that Ryan O'Hearn plays now.
First base.
Yeah.
I mean, is it not Jose Abreu? He was good right away.
No.
I thought it was a trick question. A guy broke in with 78 or something.
Yeah. He didn't accumulate the negative.
No, but I don't think he was ever negative. I mean, you had to put up a negative 1 win at least.
Oof. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a balance between amount of years too. No one's like doing 8 years of negative and then
Ty France.
Yeah, so probably a college guy.
Jurickson Profar.
He broke in as a.
He's really young
outfitter.
Yeah,
this guy only played first base.
Only played first base.
He went to Arizona. 5th round pick in 1989.
5th round pick
in 89.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Local.
LaRoche, one of the LaRoche guys. Wasn't drafted. I don't know.
John Mabry.
He was with the Yankees.
He's Stanford, didn't he? Or is that just
maybe
Junior?
Stanford.
Producer Brian gets it.
Oh, come on. From the background? Oh,
I knew the local guy would get it.
Yeah. I mean, he is a famous late bloomer.
JT Snow. Yeah.
JT Snow.
I mean, it's Ryan O'Hearn. I mean, this is really rare. I mean, because he's got 6 wins. Bill Robinson had 15. JT Snow had 14. He was negative before he turned 30, and then he got 14 wins after. And there's really nobody else in the modern. Like, I think in the modern game, we don't give these guys chances like they used to. You
have to play for the Royals for a few years.
I don't recognize any of these names on this list, even if I go down to he's worth 3 wins after. Like Jerry Royster, Denny Doyle. I don't know who these people are. Jesus Alou did 2 wins after, but he wasn't that great of a player overall. Wes Helms is on this list, but he was worth
Helms.
negative 1 win, and then he was worth 1 win after. So
I've seen some of the Wes Helms highlights.
Yeah, I remember him.
Great name.
Well, great poll from producer Brian, who also informed us pre-show. Today is National Hat Day. Simple question for each of you on our way out the door. What is your favorite hat in the current rotation? Because I know Trevor has probably the deepest hat rotation of anybody I know.
What I'm wearing right now.
That's the one?
Hall of Famer. I'm wearing this all the time, dude. I love this. I love this hat. It's available at mayday.show.
Nice. So your favorite hat changes. It's like your favorite hat's like walk-up music where every once in a while you're changing it.
Hey, funny you brought that up too. Just released a Substack article about 16 walkout songs I think someone should walk out to. So check that out as well.
What was a funnier one?
A funnier one? To be honest, they're all just good. There's a band. There's a group called Joey Valance and Bray, who is like boom bap 90s hip hop. Like they're the Beastie Boys. It's just 2, but they're like Gen Z, so they make a bunch of like video game. They're really good. It's
the A's always had good ones though, because Coco Chris came out to let me clear my throat. And then we had the amazing Josh Reddick one, dude, with what was it? You don't remember that one? Did you hear this whisper? I was like,
we loved it.
I was like, what is happening?
Everyone loved it. Other team loved it. Everybody. Dude, George Michael, 100%. Their speaker, people miss the Coliseum for a lot of reasons. I miss just the massive speakers behind just the 2 scoreboards. That's all there is, though. There's no speakers anywhere else. And so I had to change my song because I had Coheed and Cambria as rock, and there was just no, the bass didn't come through. So I had to change it to something that was just sub bass because it rattles the whole place, because that's the place you do it. There's no other park that was that heavy bass where you could hear, it sounded like someone had subs in their car and you're standing next to it. That's what it sounded like. It was awesome.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
one of them was just open. You could just see the speakers, which is, of course,
there's
the most Coliseum thing ever.
There's a line from the New Pornographers. It came out magical, out from blown speakers, and that's like my quote for the Coliseum because it always did sound like the speakers were blown. It's like, and even the announcer they used, it was like, like what is
because the speakers are a mile away and they're so loud. But I remember when it was the Overstock.com was the sponsor. Remember Overstock.com? And then they just got rid of they just removed the thing and they just didn't put anything there. So you could just see into it till the end. It was there the whole time. They just didn't even try.
Overstock.com still exists, by the way.
Really?
I've got my rotating hats are mostly the Palo Alto Little League hats that I've got. You've seen me wear them with the PA. I really... as a color scheme, I really like the one that is kind of the USC color scheme. I love that. It's like burgundy and yellow. I wish that there was a major league team that. Diamondbacks are somewhat close.
That's the Sun Devils color scheme too, a little bit.
Yeah, I love that color scheme.
Well, I think the D-backs should do a refresh and add a little bit of the yellow gold.
Yeah. Or do like an ASU night or something at least, and just like once a year at least wear them.
Maybe their City Connects could do it, yeah. But
cool.
I'm surprised. In baseball, what we've gone to is pretty much every team is like dark blue and red.
It's navy blue and red.
Yeah, it's like there's different variations on it, and that's about it. Even the Padres went from being interesting and brown and yellow to the old one. Dude.
I love this hat, but it's starting to break down. It's like a soft trucker hat material, and my giant head has just destroyed the little bit of
I love
elastic.
The color of that one. Hated the Padres font. I just really didn't like. I was just like, I don't like that at all. It's just looks so. It could be worse. You could have the Guardians logo.
Oh, looks like a creative team from the 90s.
Yeah,
just
like
a chunky Bad Angels spinoff.
Windows 2001, like a screensaver that spins.
Flying toasters.
Like,
yeah.
Ugh.
The flying
Awful.
toasters were cool at the time, but I would not want that as my logo as a major league team in the year 2026. Barrelman is probably my favorite major league hat. Brewers wear it a lot during batting practice. I did dig one up, clean it up my office. I'm finding all sorts of stuff. This is an original Super Bowl hat from the Packers when they won in New Orleans in the 90s.
Is that
it still has the tags.
Brim?
Purple brim, man.
What is that? What is that? A Lakers Packers crossover?
That's just what they did in the 90s. Purple was big in the 90s.
Weird.
This is deep Wisconsin. It has the price tag from a Kohl's on here still. So this thing is a collector's item. But
I had to take this one out of dust balls because my wife says it's cultural appropriation. It's the chanclas, which chanclas are slippers, but it's basically your abuela would throw her chanclas at you if you had done something wrong. It's a little bit of sort of capital punishment, but or corporal punishment, I should say. But it is a part of, and I think this is actually kind of cool, the Copa games in the minor leagues. These Copa games are to celebrate Hispanic cultural aspects. So this is the San Antonio Missions, their alternate hat during Copa games. So I don't know. Maybe she's right. Maybe it's going back into mothballs after this. But I wanted to wear it one day because I just love it.
Colors.
It's like a flying slipper,
Awesome.
dude. It's great.
Yeah.
We'll definitely give you a pass on National Hat Day, at least.
Yeah.
So you're good to go there. But beyond that, I'm not sure. I'm not going to be the judge and the jury on that one.
Not for me to decide.
We are going to go on our way out the door. Reminder, you can join our Discord, be part of the conversation as we get ready for the upcoming season. Be sure to like this video, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for watching 75 minutes of baseball nonsense with us. We really appreciate that. Thanks to producer Brian Smith for putting this episode together. Congrats on the big dub to Trevor on the first Name That Dude of 2026. It's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Friday.
Thanks for listening.